Oh, hello everybody. I'm remarkably chipper this afternoon, despite the fact I only had 2.5 hours sleep last night because I flew back from Zadar yesterday. Was it today? Or it started off yesterday and ended up being today. So instead of arriving back in Edinburgh like 12 o'clock-ish like we're supposed to, we arrived in Edinburgh at 2 o'clock due to delays and turbulence, and then apparently something animalistic went into the engine as it was coming into Zadar, and then a technician had to check if the plane was fit to fly, so that was a bit unnerving. And then while he was checking it was fit to fly, we missed our slot to take off, so brilliant. And then we got to Edinburgh, and it was cold and freezing, you know, been used to about 34 degrees heat, and it was pretty cold. Walked to the car park, only to find that my back tyre of my car was as flat as a pancake, and then managed to drive very slowly to the nearest petrol station, whereupon you could put in ended up paying £3 actually, before I realised that if your tyre's completely flat is a warning for everybody. Don't then straight away try to pump it up, because there's a special thing that says if your tyre is flat, you have to press this other button, because if it's completely flat, the pressure doesn't know, the thing that measures the pressure doesn't know if there's any air in it or not, and decides not to do anything with it. But you press this other thing and it pulls them up lovely. But then we had to drive to Lloyd to pick up the dog and drive down here, so we never actually got into our little house here till 5 o'clock in the morning. And where there was a note waiting for me. I'll come back to that. And yeah, so 2.5 hours sleep, absolutely fantastic. And I've been doing some work this morning. I'm going to be out doing some gardening very shortly. No peace for the wicked. Anyway, my little video montage, little screenshot should have says, who did I meet in Croatia? And you're all probably thinking that I met Workshy Evans. Well, actually, that would have been funny if I had done, because I was in the completely wrong place. We flew into Zadar, and I went to the old town of Zadar quite a few times. But I got my Zeta mixed up. He actually lives in Zagreb, which is the capital of Croatia, which is miles away. And we were then in an island called Pashman. We had to get a ferry from Zadar to Pashman. But it would have been funny if he'd walked along the wee beach where we were with his family. That would have been quite interesting, but that never happened. In fact, we never met any English people the whole of the time that we were on holiday on Pashman at all. It was all Slovaks, Czechs, Germans, and of course Croatians. There was no English people there at all, so it was nice to get away from British people, not to hear British accents. It's quite nice. And I spent most of the time on a lilo, lying low. And normally I do a lot more because we usually hire a car. Never hired a car, and so just went around in ferries and buses. And we met somebody over there who knew the people that we were renting the place from, so he took us around a bit, and it was a really good holiday. And I have a tan. It's not as brown as I usually get, because these days I usually start off factor 20, factor 15, and then factor 8. But of course, after my skin cancer scare, now it's factor 30 all the time. So I didn't burn, or my wife didn't burn as well either. She's now decided to do factor 30 as well, to encourage me to use factor 30. Well, my doctor wants me to use factor 50. Well, that ain't happening, man, otherwise I'd be completely white. So yeah, that was it. So did I meet Tony Morris on Pashman? No, I didn't meet Tony Morris on Pashman either. We'll come back to him. Did I meet, while I was in Zagreb, any Carters? Zagreb, popular tourist location. Loads of people go down to see the sun setting. It has a remarkable sunset, which sets in, I think it's the Adriatic Sea. Remarkable sunset. You get a lot of people who come to the end of Zadar, where they have a sea organ, like there's holes that go through and it makes different noises. The sun goes down, hundreds of people turn up. And the 3 times I went to Zadar, I never saw one Carter. It was a Carter-free zone, and yet there were hundreds of people there. There was plenty of opportunity for Jehovah's Witnesses to be standing there ignoring an awful lot of people. Like literally they could ignore hundreds, especially in the sunset time. There's loads of people make their way to the end of the pier thing, to see the sun going down, but I did not see one carter. So it was a completely Jehovah's Witness carting zone. Free zone, didn't see any Kingdom Hold, saw nobody out chapping doors. Well, that's a miracle if you do it these days anyway. Saw no carters, so I never saw the JW logo anywhere at all. So no Evans and no witnesses. Tony Morris, right, the connection with Tony Morris is that I was checking a couple of times what was going on the Twitter world, not particularly that often, and then somebody came up with this funny thing where it's on YouTube of somebody pretending to be Tony Morris ringing up Warwick and asking to speak to Sammy Hurd, and it's quite a funny conversation. Although I was a bit confused at first who this guy was supposed to be impersonating, but it was supposed to be Tony Morris. And then I was just thinking about this great mystery of whatever happened to Tony Morris. And while I was lying on my lying low, I sort of started, coming up with this song and various lyrics, and they were just in a massive basic stage. And when I just came back, I just literally picked up my guitar about 10 minutes ago and thinking, can I transpose the melody to chords on the guitar? And it seems to be the same chords I use all the time. I don't really go off piste with many of my chords, and it does actually work. It does actually work. So I thought I'd share with you so far how we've got with the Whatever Happened to Tony Morris song. So hopefully my fingers won't go white. I suffer from something called Raynaud's disease, for those who know what that is. But if you're in Scotland, it's a real bugger to have Raynaud's disease, because all you have to do is get your fingers cold for literally 30 seconds, and then all of a sudden your fingers go completely white. And then you can't do anything with them. And then once you start getting blood back into your fingers, I think it's the capillaries shut down or narrow or whatever. I don't think there's a cure for it. And then of course when it starts putting blood back in, then it starts to turn a wee bit blue. So it's so I had it just before because I was in the room over there that doesn't have the sun, trying to learn the Tony Morris song. Anyway, I have my trusty guitar here. So these licks aren't fixed yet, but there's definitely a basis for a Tony Morris song here. So if I can remember some of the lyrics that I was humming to myself while I was on the Lilo in Pashman. So it goes like this. Whatever happened to Tony Morris? He was leader of our band. He saw bodies pop like hot dogs in Vietnam, cross the land. Tony, Tony, Tony Morris. You thought you were the best. Tony, Tony, Tony Morris. Now you're just like all the rest. You won't be a king. You won't be a priest. You won't go to heaven for 1,000 years. You won't be a king. You won't be a priest. You get the drift on the Toni Morris song. Yeah, it'll be good when it's finished, but that's like a lot of my songs. I never do get to finish them because I'm too bloody busy. But hey ho, God, when I retire, God. Anyway, the note I got back, I said I got a note that came back. Now, funny enough, here's the note. It's a handwritten note here. Funny enough, it's not from a Jehovah's Witness. It's actually from my neighbour below. And when we were away on holiday, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law came to stay for a few days. And I said to them, just be careful with the noise because our neighbour down below complains a bit. So I came back at 5 o'clock in the morning, and this note was here, and I've explained before about my neighbour that he's an old racist, and this is what the note said. Terry, I have 3 friends. I didn't even know he had 3 friends. They're obviously other members of the KKK. I have 3 friends staying with me. Would you be so kind as to not to walk too heavy over your kitchen floor and my small bedroom ceiling? Now, my kitchen floor, I had spent a lot of time turning it into wood, so I've gone back to the floorboards. And part of my floorboards, my kitchen is over his kitchen, but a little bit over, it goes over his wee bedroom, but below half of our kitchen. He said, referring to his 3 friends, God, I think he's only got 1 bed in this room. Extraordinary. He says, they go to sleep at 9:30, and if you're walking up and down, they won't be able to sleep. Your friends stayed. They never made any noise. Could you try and do the same? So there you go. There you go. And I put this on my Facebook. Obviously, there was righteous comments that came back, like, why don't you take up clog dancing or pogoing or walking in some boots, or clumping. And I mentioned this to my sister-in-law, and she replied. He says, what an old miserable bastard he really is. Honestly, this is when they were staying. Honestly, blaring his music at 10 AM on the Thursday morning, bloody singing at the top of his voice, and kept changing songs too. Best thing for him was to be put a false ceiling in his flat right through, as if the old git is going to spend money on that. So basically the neighbour below us is quite wealthy. We know he at least has got $250,000 that's hidden somewhere, maybe a pillowcase, and yet he refuses to put some sound-breaking things that you can put on the ceiling. And we bought the most expensive sound-proofing underlay that we could do when we had our carpet laid. Of course, you don't put underlay on top of varnished floorboards. So I just thought I'd share that amusing story with you, because, you know, when I got in at like 5 o'clock in the morning and I just read this, I was like going, OMG. So yeah, you know, 9:30. The funny thing is about this is because when we go to bed about 11:30, he's still up at like 12:30 with his TV on really, really loud. It's extraordinary. But there you go. This is the problem when you live above an old racist bastard. But anyway, just thought I'd leave that with you, that thought with you. I think that's it. Yeah, I'm going to make some lunch now and disappear. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed my my amusing, witty stories, and of course the classic, which may one be the Whatever Happened to Toni Morris song. You know, I probably will play it on the piano. I'll maybe figure out a way to play the piano, make it more interesting, do a live vocal, a little bit of drums, and yeah, we'll see how it goes in that one when I've got time to do it, which at the moment, for the rest till September the 30th. I have no time because of course I work full time. On the days off I then do a little bit more work at all, and sometimes can speak to you good people as well. Anyway, I'm going to have to make a sandwich, and enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are in this world. Goodbye.